Have you thought about moving to Anaheim Hills, California? Or have you thought about what it costs to live in Anaheim Hills, California? Well, you're on the right channel. I'm going to be talking about that in just a second. Thank you for coming to my channel. And if you're coming here for the first time, please subscribe to my channel and hit that alert button. I put out weekly videos regarding Anaheim Hills and surrounding areas about the real estate tips, lifestyle, and updates. So feel free to subscribe. All right, so let's talk about why or what are the cost of living in Anaheim Hills. But before I get into the cost, I wanted to run down some statistics about Anaheim Hills, why people may want to move to Anaheim Hills. One of the reasons is, let's talk about the income. If you look at the median household income in Anaheim Hills, it's almost double that of the US average. The US average is approximately $66,000 per year per household. Anaheim Hills is almost double. And if you look at the unemployment rate in Anaheim Hills is at 4%. So here's a good reason to move to Anaheim Hills. If you look at another number, let's look at the employment in Anaheim Hills. It's given a B plus rating, and the ratings are from A through F. Income per capita is 56. It's 57% higher than the national average. Household income, as we talked about just a minute ago or a second ago, is double that of the national average, and it's 13% lower than the national average. And let's move on and let's talk about the crime in Anaheim Hills. If you look at the crime, it's getting an A rating. The total crime is 36% lower in Anaheim Hills than the average of the nation. Violent crime is down 64%. Property crime is lower by 31%. If you look at the total crime statistics, national average per 100,000 people is 2489, and Anaheim Hills is only 1603. So one more statistics I'd like to give you is about the schools about Anaheim Hills, and I'll talk about cost of living right after that. It's given an A minus rating, which is pretty much an A. The average test scores, as you can see, is 24% higher than national average. High school diploma rate is 13% higher than the national average, and the bachelor's degree attainment is 57% higher than the national average. So here's some good reasons to move to California, to Anaheim Hills, California. So let's talk about the cost of living. And I can tell you right now, it is not cheap to live in Anaheim Hills, but you can see all the advantages of Anaheim Hills as far as the numbers goes. But just to tell you my brief story, I moved here about 20 to 22 years ago in Anaheim Hills. And one of the reasons was obviously because of the schools system they have. It's the Orange Unified School District. And also because what Anaheim Hills offers, the scenery, the hills, the trails, the parks, the golf courses, and the great homes it offers. So that's one of the reasons I moved here. And of course, I'm paying the price for it, but it's well worth it. So let's look at the overall rating as far as cost goes. It's given an F from A through F, so which is not a good sign, but that has to do with the cost of housing. If you look at the overall cost of living in Anaheim Hills, it's 56% higher than the national average. But let's look at the other numbers. Goods and services is 110 compared to California of 111. By the way, the 100 number is an average national average. So the 100 number, it shows you 110. So Anaheim Hills is 10 points higher than the national average. If you look at groceries, it's only 16 points higher than the national average of the nation, which is 100. Healthcare is 109, which is pretty close to the national average. Housing, I'm going to come back to that. Let's talk about transportation. It's 130 compared to 128 for California and 100 for the nation. Utilities is 90 compared to 118 for California and 100 for USA. So it's actually cheaper because Anaheim Hills and Anaheim, which is part of Anaheim Hills is part of Anaheim, which has its own electric company, utility company. So let's come back to the only one thing that's a very high cost of living is the cost of living. The national average is 100, California is 140, and Anaheim Hills is 156. And the reason is because if you look at this graph over here, homes are very expensive in Anaheim Hills compared to the national median. the median price of Anaheim Hills house as of last month is almost $800,000, pretty close to 783, to be 775 to be exact. And the national mean average is about 250 or 260. So if there's one cost which is very expensive, it's the homes. Otherwise, it's all straightforward. By the way, I'm Mike Patel with First Team Real Estate right here in Anaheim Hills. I've been in this area for 20 years. And also, if you are thinking about moving to Anaheim Hills area, I also have at the end of this video and in the description a link to the pros and cons of living in Anaheim Hills. Thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing.